Hola alumnos, hoy estudiamos los adjetivos descriptivos. La información para esta lección está en las páginas 60 y 61. So when we are discussing descriptive adjectives, it's very important that we understand what adjectives do. This is basically going to be a review of information that we've already covered. We know that adjectives in Spanish must agree with the nouns that they modify in both gender and number. Therefore, if our noun is masculine and singular, our adjective needs to be masculine and singular as well. Let's take a look at the information that we have on our lesson guide. It says if an adjective ends in o, if we want to make that adjective feminine, we need to change the o to a. If we would like to make the adjective plural, all we need to do is add ese. For example, in the chart that we have the noun amigo. If we want to describe our friend as being nice, since amigo es masculino y singular, our adjective also needs to be masculino y singular. So we would say amigo simpático. To make that plural, we'll add s. Amigos simpáticos. Remember, if we want to make our adjective feminine, all we need to do is change the o to a. Amiga simpática. And to make that plural, amigas simpáticas. Add an s. Next, we are going to review adjectives that end in a. If we have an adjective that ends in a, and also an adjective that can end in most consonants, these types of adjectives can be considered either masculine or feminine, meaning this adjective can be used with a man or a woman. To make that adjective plural, all we need to do is add ese, if the adjective ends in a. So if it ends in a, add ese. If our adjective ends in a consonant, to make that adjective plural, we are going to add es. So we have the example, niño rebelde, a rebellious child, male child. If we want to make that plural, since rebelde ends in e, we are going to add ese, niños rebeldes. Similarly, if we want to make that feminine, remember, since it ends in e, it could be applied to a woman as well. So we can say niña rebelde. To make that plural, add ese, niñas rebeldes. Now we have an adjective that ends in a consonant, liberal. We want to say a liberal man, hombre liberal. Since this adjective ends in a consonant, to make it plural, we are going to add es, hombres liberales. To apply this to a woman, remember, since this adjective ends in a consonant, this one is okay to be used with a woman as well. So we can say mujer liberal. If we want to say that we have liberal women, making it plural, mujeres liberales, by adding es. Muy bien. Now let's discuss adjectives of nationality. Most adjectives if an adjective of nationality ends in a consonant, which a lot of them do, in order to make it feminine, we are going to add a. If we want to make the masculine form plural, we are going to add es. If we want to make the feminine form plural, we're just going to add ese to the a that we already have. So, another thing that you need to keep in mind is the fact that adjectives ending in dor, D-O-R, an, on, and in also follow a similar pattern. So let's look at the examples that we have. The first example, under masculine and singular, is tío japonés. To make tío japonés plural, we are going to add es. Tíos japoneses. Notice that you do remove the accent mark. We also have cuñado, trabajador, talking about our hard-working brother-in-law. To make that plural, we add es, cuñados, trabajadores. We also have padrastro alemán. To make padrastro alemán plural, we are going to add es as well. And we're also going to remove that accent mark. Padrastros alemanes. For the feminine versions, we are going to add a to all of our singular forms and then ese to make them all plural. So, tía japonesa becomes tías japonesas. Cuñada trabajadora becomes cuñadas trabajadoras. And madrastra alemana becomes madrastras alemanas. Muy bien. Now, let's take a look at what we need to do as far as placement of our adjectives. Most adjectives are placed after the nouns that they modify. In Spanish, they go after the nouns that they modify. So, if we wanted to say, my grandparents, if we wanted to say, Luis's house is a white house, we need to make sure that our adjective modifies our noun house and it goes after house. So, la casa de Luisa es una casa blanca. In Spanish, if we have adjectives that describe quantity, they are going to go before the nouns that they modify. So the example that we have is my grandparents have 4 children, or 4 daughters specifically, and 1 son. Since these are adjectives of quantity, numbers are adjectives of quantity, we're going to put them before our nouns. So we will say, mis abuelos tienen 4 hijas y un hijo. Next, let's take a look at special adjectives. We have the adjectives bueno and malo. The adjectives bueno and malo can be used either before or after the nouns that they modify, but we need to make sure that we keep a special rule in mind. If they come before a noun that is masculine and singular, we need to make sure that we drop the O on both of the words. And so bueno will become buen, malo will become mal. So we have 4 examples. The first one is using buen and bueno. The second example, or the second group of examples, uses mal and malo. So the first one says, Stewie Griffin no es un buen niño. Stewie Griffin is not a good little boy. Since we have the adjective bueno coming before the noun niño, we need to make sure we take off the o, because niño is a masculine singular noun. So we're not going to say bueno niño, we're going to say buen niño. We can say this very same sentence in a different manner by switching them around. And so we would say, Stewie Griffin no es un niño bueno. In this instance, since the adjective is going after the noun, we do not have to remove the o. Now, our example with mal and malo, or our examples with mal and malo. Darth Vader es un mal hombre. Darth Vader is a bad man. Since mal, the adjective, is coming before our noun, hombre, we need to make sure that we remove the o, because hombre is a masculine singular noun. If we want to place it afterward, then we are going to keep the o. Darth Vader es un hombre malo. Excelente. So now let's take a look at some commonly commonly used adjectives. These adjectives are found on page 61, and we have them in our chart that is on our lesson guide. Notice some of these adjectives do have in parentheses the a, which is telling us that if we want to make them feminine, we need to use a. If they do not have the a in parentheses, that means that this adjective can be used with both a masculine or a feminine noun. En español, si queremos decir coward, decimos cobarde. Smart or ready, we can say listo or lista. If we want to say lazy, perezoso or perezosa. Poor, pobre. Rich, rico or rica. Stingy, tacaño, tacaña. Silly or foolish, tonto or tonta. Hardworking, trabajador, trabajadora. Muy bien. At the bottom, we have what are called cognates. Cognates are words that sound similar in Spanish as they do in English. So I'm going to pronounce these cognates and give you the opportunity to repeat after me. They should be pretty obvious as to what they mean just by hearing them. So let's see. The cognates that we have are arrogante, artístico, atlético, bilingüe, cómico, conservador, dramático, extrovertido, generoso, honesto, humilde, indeciso, intelectual, inteligente, introvertido, irresponsable, liberal, moderno, paciente, progresista, rebelde, reservado, responsable, sincero, tímido, tolerante, valiente. Muy bien. So practice using your adjectives. And now you notice you have a large list of adjectives you can use to describe yourself. And until next time, nos vemos.